Ben, how are things? Are they great?
Things could be worse, but no, things are good. I think they're only getting better, honestly.
Well, I keep reading about your supposed new attitude when it comes to being the leader of Band of Horses. Can you talk a bit more about that? Like what's changed?
Well, I mean, I think I've always been, you know, the leader guy. I just can sometimes be a bit passive in the studio when I'm dealing with like maybe, big time producers or like these big brother types that I work with, that are established and I kind of like somebody like Jason Lytle from Granddaddy. I grew up listening to his music, or Glenn Johns, who's produced every classic band under the sun. These producers sometimes give me the little brother complex, and I think this time around there was finally a point where it's like, okay, I've earned my stripes or something like that. It's time to guide this thing into port, and I'm gonna steer the wheel.
And that means on this album, you actually behind the board producing a bit as well. What made you decide to take that big step?
Well, I think I've always all along been producing it in some form or fashion, right? I mean, I'm the one that brings these demos in. I have the vision. Um, it's just you defer to these big brother types or grandpa types, as it were, with Glenn. Um, so I think it was more that taking that decisive action to say, okay, we're going in a different direction. And I mean, I had good help. It's not like my friend Wolfie down here, Wolfgang Zimmerman, he's like a young buck. So I got to push him around a little bit, a little push and pull there from the two of us. I guess I kind of earned that title, but it's always kind of been there. I mean, I have to have some sort of vision, or I never would have gotten those records done anyway.
Absolutely. Uh, I've heard the song Crutch described as sounding like a young band trying to sound like Band of Horses, which I think is just completely absurd. And it makes me think I need to stop reading reviews of music. What do you think? What's that song mean to you?
It sounds like an old band trying to sound like The Cure.
There you go.
No, there's definitely some elements of that, and that jangly kind of indie rock stuff that I grew up with, that I love. I'm sure you're not trying to like emulate another artist or something, but those things, they seep into to your pores and into the fabric of what your band, all the influences we wear on our sleeve. Um, I mean, I think I could go through each song and be like, okay, I was definitely thinking about, I can hear some influence of some band that I love in every song I've made.
It's kind of unavoidable. I
Yeah,
mean, there's with only so many notes available to us. You just got to make them work, hopefully in a new and exciting way, which I think you've done. I love the opening song, "Warning Signs." It's and it feels like a pretty personal story, especially with the opening lines, like "small talk with a registered nurse, not to cry in front of people at work." Well, that is hard. Can you talk a bit more about that? Because I think for someone like you, crying at work means something completely different to most of us crying at work.
yeah. Well, actually, I had lost my voice at a performance at the Sydney Opera House in Australia. I had completely blown out my voice during the performance, and it just devastated me. And I was like, I mean, I was in like tears, man. And once you can't sing and cry at the same time. I mean,
You
you can
can't.
do it, but it's pretty ugly. It's hard to get. I mean, especially when your voice is gone anyway. So it was just a bit of a spiral, a really sad spiral going on there. So I definitely drew inspiration from that, but I didn't want it to be so much about me. Any of these songs, I don't want it to all be focused on me. So I tried to think about other people and their lines of work where it must be brutal, a lot harder than playing a rock show. Imagine what these people go through in a day's work at a hospital.
Definitely. Um, I guess I've noticed myself through the years kind of holding back when it comes to my public life. Like, generally, I'm afraid to say what's really on my mind a lot of the times because it's like, oh man, you're this public figure. You shouldn't be actively offending people on Twitter. Do you ever feel that way as you're writing songs? Like, man, should I really be singing this?
That's a really good way of putting it. And I, I had to, I actually had to make it like a force myself to make the decision to say, I'm going to be brutally honest about things. I was going through a divorce at the time, and we had lost some band members and stuff like that. I feel like usually I'm dancing around direct subject matter for fear of hurting someone's feelings or something like that, or exposing myself in that way. With this, I made a concerted effort to tell the story exactly the way I saw it, or envision maybe what those people, how they felt about it. So it's not always about me all the time. I tried to give all sides of the story.
I mean, regardless of whose point of view it's coming from, I gotta say thanks for saying that tough stuff for us, because I mean, even though it's your life essentially that you're writing about, I think when art is good, it feels like very universal. So, in a roundabout way, I mean, thank you for helping me figure out my own nonsense too through the years. So it makes me wonder: is there an album for you, or a song, or an artist in general that you go to whenever you're feeling rough and need a little boost, or to wallow in it more?
God, uh, the first one that comes to mind would be like Elliott Smith or something like that. I still hold his music dear, and find his expression of difficult stories in a simple way, in a very like just heart wrenching way, is quintessential that feeling for me. And I do hope, and thank you for saying that. I hope that by being so direct like that, I can get off my chest, and other people can wallow in my misery and make it their own now.
Absolutely. That's a good thing. I mean, that's what it's all about. You put it out there, we take it, do what we need with it, and everybody benefits. There's a band from, we're in Pittsburgh. There's a great band called String Machine. If you ever see them around, check them out. But they put out a new album recently, and their leader, David Beck, was telling me that for years he was kind of hiding behind metaphor in his lyrics.
Oh, yeah.
And on their new album, just decided to say, to hell with it, I'm going to say what's on my mind. Very similar to what you're saying there. And I think it's benefited them greatly.
That's really cool. I just wrote that down. I want to hear that. Yeah, that's exactly the thing. I think I got lost in so much trying to be too clever with wordplay and trying to mask a lot of those, that direct subject matter, for fear of hurting people's feelings, or for outing myself. So yeah, the metaphorical, song and dance thing got tired to me as well.
I hope you don't lose the wordplay though, because I'm a dad. You know what I mean? It's like we live for that stuff. It helps.
I know. I can't get away from it completely, but I do think that avoiding constantly doing that for fear of exposing myself publicly, not in a bad way. Sorry. I do feel like it was therapeutic for me as well.
Good. Well, selfishly, I wanted to talk about my favorite song on the album, and I think just as I thought I knew what it was, I listened again, and it became very difficult. So I think I'm going to settle on You're Nice to Me, which I think is a beautiful song. And another one where you can kind of feel that like Jason Lytle, David Friedman influence. So for me, it's always nice to be reminded that everyone is struggling and it's okay to say so. What's that song mean for you?
Oh man, again, that's like I'm being a bit honest, or just like saying, okay, I can't hide it anymore. I'm just gonna say it. I've had a hell of a hard time. It's been tough, and I'm just, I'm describing, living in the same town with your ex, and passing them on the road, or the feelings. There's a lot of feelings of like wondering what that other person's doing now that you both have your freedom, and you're still wondering like what are they up to around town, and in the crushing blow of seeing them and being like, at the grocery store or something, and being like stunned. Yeah, I think I was also trying to convince myself that better times were ahead. And I'm not sure if I achieved that exactly. Sometimes I can't be too objective with these things because I write them in the moment.
Ben, thanks for taking some time to talk with us today.
It's been my pleasure, and yeah, thanks for playing the music and thanks for listening.